laid this wreath in memory of our ancestors who suffered the indignity of enslavement. May today mark a restoration of their dignity and their humanity. Amen. Amen.
It has been voted on by the UN. Yes, it has been voted on. And the resolution is that, yes, the UN is accepting that the transatlantic slavery was one of the biggest crimes against humanity. The world just voted if slavery deserves reparation, and not everyone agrees. This is the Jollof and Wi-Fi Studios. My name is Flo. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel for us. Put us on post notifications so that you're notified whenever we post a new video. You can also follow us on X, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and on all other social media platforms. So, for a while now, a conversation has been spearheaded by the president of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama. He has been spearheading the conversation that the transatlantic slavery is the greatest crime against humanity. And in so doing, he has issued the petition to the United Nations that there should be reparations for the crimes that were committed against slaves.
In this exact place, and served notice that Ghana will move a motion to declare the transatlantic slave trade the gravest crime against humanity. This current draft resolution is a result of months of consultation.
So today, 25th of March 2026, it has been voted on by the UN. Yes, it has been voted on. And the resolution is that, yes, the UN is accepting that the transatlantic slavery was one of the biggest crimes against humanity. When it comes to Africa, most of the African countries actually voted in favor of this petition that John Dramani Mahama has, issued to the UN. In the case of Europe, we have countries like Spain, the United Kingdom, Portugal, where they decided to abstain from voting. Netherlands as well, where they say they recognize that, yes, slavery was a huge crime against humanity, but they do not want to accept the fact that there should be reparations made for something that happened over 150 years ago. Yeah, so they decided not to vote. And then on the other hand, we have countries like the United States, Israel, and Argentina who voted against the motion. We have some Latin countries like Brazil, for example, that also voted in favor of the petition. We have the Caribbeans that also voted in favor of the petition. So in general, most countries voted in favor of this petition for reparations and for seeing and accepting that transatlantic slavery was one of the biggest crimes against humanity. One of the biggest arguments is that slavery created this inequality, that has to do with like financial status of countries. So for countries like Ghana, where gold was in abundance, bauxite, the colonizers or the slave masters took advantage and then stole all of these things. Technically, it wouldn't be considered stealing at that time because they were in charge of the country, or they had taken control of that over the country. So they stole these things and then they brought them to their respective countries, which as a result has made them prosper more than Africa has. There is a saying by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah that goes that Africa is not poor, it is Africans that are poor. So Africa has all the riches in the world, but due to the fact that we were exploited and were taken advantage of, and a lot of things were seized from Africa, Europe and the United States have prospered immensely because of the things that they gathered and took from Africa. They stole from us. But then there is an argument that this was something that happened over 150 years ago. Okay? Why should a country, or why should a people that had no knowledge of this, a people that did not contribute directly to this, have to pay or have to bring reparations for something that happened several years ago. The question, who receives this reparation? What kind of reparation at all are you requesting? But in this case, I believe reparation means, and I read, debt cancellation, which means that any amount that, countries that suffered slavery owes to, let's say, a country that colonized them, a country that traded slaves, they would let go of those debts. Also, investment in Africa and the Caribbean. They're asking that these countries contribute to Africa so that Africa can also grow, because due to the fact that a lot of things were taken from us, we don't have as much resources to grow as some of these countries are currently doing. So an investment back into Africa would go a long way to help us grow as well. They are also asking for the return of stolen artifacts. When you go to the United Kingdom, for example, we have museums with the symbols of Ghana. We have museums with the artifacts of Ghana. So many things from Africa in general that are all over the world, in Europe, where people pay to go and see it, while we, the Africans, we don't have access to them. I remember some time back, I think the king, Santehene, the king of Kumasi, he asked for an artifact to be brought from the United Kingdom to Ghana, and it came, but then it had to be returned again. Something that belongs to Ghana. How can you tell me that you stole it from us, but you are still keeping it to monetize off of it? They're also asking for official apologies. Yes, official apologies from the countries that partook in this slavery. But finally, I would like to compare this to the case of the Holocaust, okay? After the Holocaust, there were reparations made by Germany to the families, to people that were affected, victims, and all that. People argue that it is because during the Holocaust, it was well documented. So they knew the families that were affected, they knew the victims of the Holocaust, they knew people that, would benefit from these reparations. But the slavery that we are talking about, that ended about 150 years ago, it was not well documented. So there is no way you know that this person was affected, that person was affected, even though we know the countries that were affected. Majorly black people, we have people from the Latin countries that were also affected, and some other parts of the world, okay? So they are saying that the narrative is different. Germany was the sole, we would say the sole causer of the Holocaust. So they were the only ones that were obliged to make any reparations to these countries. But in return, in this case, if you ask the whole world or all the countries that are liable to the causes of slavery to pay, it is going to be very, very difficult. It's going to be very, very difficult. So comparing these two things, what do you think? Do you think that yes, there should be some reparations, there shouldn't be reparations? Because, how can you tell me that you stole from us? And when we have come to ask for accountability, you say yes, we agree that it was bad, but the things we already have, or in terms of us giving you something, we are not going to do it. It is not just that you're going to give us like a check, or you're just going to give us money. That is not it. But we are asking for you to consider, for you to also look at the fact that because you took from us, you have limited our resources. Because you stifled upon us for so many years, it was hard for us to develop. Mahama, in one of the videos in which he spoke about why he was asking for reparations, is because after slavery was declared to be illegal, slave masters were paid some compensations because they lost what was considered their property. So if these people were paid because they lost their slaves, then Africans, then victims, people who suffered directly or indirectly from slavery, should also get some compensation. They should also get some compensation. But let me know what you think in the comment section. As I said, this is not about them just signing a check to give to Africa or give to Latin American countries that also suffered slavery, but rather this is something that's going to take a long time. These are going to take prolonged negotiations between different countries. Bilateral agreements are going to be made out of this. They're going to try and get better, probably visa access, stuff like that. That is what I'm hoping for. Even if they're not going to give us money, these things that we will get. And it has also given us a national recognition. It has given Africa a national recognition. It has given us a voice for people to know that, yes, it happened, but we are not going to sit down and accept it as it was. You should recognize that it was a crime against African people. It was a crime against people that were enslaved. And there is no excuse for that. Also, there's not, like they're putting a gun to these countries' heads to force them to pay anything. No. If a country wishes to pay, fine. If they don't want to pay, we can't do anything to them. But once it is recognized, I feel that these countries are going to make intentions one way or the other to try and also do something to compensate some of these countries, which Africa is going to benefit from, which some Latin American countries are going to benefit from, which the Caribbeans are also going to benefit from. So this is a good news for Africa, for the Caribbean, for Latin Americans, for all countries that were affected in the transatlantic slavery that went on. So let me know what you think in the comment section. If you think there should be some compensations, there should be some reparations, let me know in the comment section. If you believe this was years ago, and people that have come subsequently after these successions should not have to pay any reparations, should not have to commit themselves to making people happy, let me also know in the comment section. My name is Flo. As I said, please consider subscribing to the channel for us. Put us on post notifications so you're notified whenever we post a new video.